thank you very much for that kind introduction, and thank you to you, John, to Al, put together an absolutely extraordinary testimony over the course. Just watching the highlights, I shudder to think the level of emotion that has been broadcast to the world over the course of the last 7 days. And I'm just simply so grateful to you for today is going to be an extraordinary day. For 30 years, this country has seen mass shooting after mass shooting, homicide after homicide, suicide after suicide, families, communities being ripped apart, and has done nothing about it. Congress has decided to put its politics ahead of the safety of this country year after year after year, despite the fact that the changes necessary in our laws to make this country safer really aren't controversial at all outside of Washington, D.C. The things that we will be voting on today, the things that I think are necessary moving forward, are supported by 80–90% of the American public. Important today, at this moment, is that we break that 30-year logjam, that we show progress is possible. We show that it is possible for Republicans and Democrats to come out of those corners and to be able to work together to make our schools safer. I've never seen families and kids, parents, as scared as they were after Uvalde and after Buffalo. And they were scared for the safety of their children, but they were also scared that their government was so fundamentally broken that it couldn't step up and address the one thing that matters most to anybody in this country, the safety of their kids. Right? What wouldn't you give to protect your children from physical harm? You'd give away your job, the roof over your head, your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner if it was necessary in order to protect your kids. And so why, given the sacrifices that Americans would be willing to make to protect their children, was Congress not willing to sacrifice, right, your political safety in order to protect those kids as well? We've spent 4 weeks, 24/7, literally, putting this legislation together. A reporter this morning on a television show asked me, was there any time during the last 4 weeks where you worried that the negotiations were going to crumble? And I told them that I couldn't count the number of times that we were in peril of the negotiations ending. But Senator Cornyn and Senator Tillis, Senator Sinema, and I decided that this time was going to be different. We were not going to let 30 years of inaction stop us. And so we sat at that table day after day, hour after hour, until we had come to a conclusion about a set of investments and interventions that could make our streets and our schools safer. What we're doing is investing in red flag laws. These are the laws that allow authorities and courts to temporarily take guns away from individuals who are presenting a threat of harm to themselves or others. We're going to elevate the kind of background check we do on young buyers and require there to be a short pause before an 18 to 21-year-old can get a weapon to make sure that they are out of crisis before they walk out of a store with an AR-15. We're going to make sure that every domestic abuser, whether it be a spouse or a boyfriend, has their guns taken away if they get convicted of domestic assault. We're going to tighten our background check system to make sure that everybody who is in the commercial business of selling firearms conducts background checking and straw purchasing to stop the illegal flow of weapons into our cities. And on top of all that, we're going to invest $15 billion in school and community safety and mental health access. We're going to build a new network of community health centers all across this country, targeting the most underserved communities. I'm super proud of what we've done. And people ask me, what's different this time around? Right? Why, after 30 years of failure, are we on the verge of success for the first time in 3 decades? And the answer is pretty simple. It's all of you. Been built over the past decade that decided obstacle after obstacle, failure after failure, to not stop because you were convinced of the righteousness of your cause. You knew that eventually Congress had to stand up and listen. And I understand that this isn't everything that we need, but this is unquestionably a result not of my ability of political persuasion, but of the strength of people speaking truth to power over and over and over again. And so I'm just deeply grateful for everything that you have done. I'll never forget the thing in Sandy Hook. I was there outside the room as the 20 sets of parents who remained were told. And 3 weeks later, I was at a community center in the north end of our state when furious parents looked at me and said, "Why are you paying attention now? Why is this country all of a sudden interested in gun violence when it's been happening in our neighborhood for decades?" In many ways, that moment was just as devastating as the experience in Sandy Hook, because I realized I had failed throughout my political career to stand up for those families. And so we have an answer today. We have an answer. It's not a complete answer, but it is an answer that allows us to tell families all across this country that the era of inaction is over. And the question now is what is possible going forward. So thank you for what you have done. Thank you for the testimony that you have brought to Congress over the course of the last week. What an exceptional effort that you have made. And as we have been successful in landing this bill on the floor of the Senate, it is no doubt due in part to the work that you have endeavored to undertake over the course of the last week, and I'm grateful to be here to help you culminate what has been a difference-making effort. So to John and to Alan and to everyone who has been part of the people's filibuster, I express to you my deepest gratitude. Thank you very much.